Violence at St Albans Prison was a premeditated attack by the inmates. Ntla-kana says the officials on duty should have taken reasonable measures to ensure that there was a random search of inmates.
What we do know for certain is that the attack on officials happened just as breakfast was being served. And it seems, at least based on the information we have at our disposal, that it was a premeditated attack by inmates on officials, and that in the retaliation that followed that, we then had the unfortunate eventuality of passing away of some of the officials. It
was a premeditated incident, but what also came across is that the inmates were not searched when they made their way to the dining hall. And those inmates, apparently, they are regarded as the worst of the worst.
Indeed. I mean, some of the considerations that will factor into the investigation that will be launched is the compliance to basic security protocols, which would require that inmates who are about to move into a public area should be searched. It is a known fact in correctional facilities, not just in South Africa, but internationally, that your communal areas, like your breakfast areas, your recreational areas, are the most susceptible to violence by inmates. So the officials on duty should have taken reasonable measures to ensure that at least there was a random search of offenders as they were being removed from their cells.
Our reporter, Lerato Thipa, has been at the St Albans Prison brawl story since Monday. We chat to her now on the line from Port Elizabeth. Good afternoon, Lerato. New Year's weekend fast approaching. Many prisoners would be expecting visitation and so on New Year's Day especially. Is that lockdown still in place, Lerato, and have normal ops resumed at the prison? What can you tell us?
Good afternoon, Keshni. The situation at the prison is obviously still tense and obviously under control by the police. The lockdown is still continuing and no visitors will be allowed up until the investigation is done. We are not too sure as to how long the investigation is going to take place. We are aware that the SABC is on the scene doing their own independent investigation, but as to how long it's going to take, no one is clear as yet. When we were actually there, we also spoke to some family members who were saying that no information has been communicated to them. So whether their loved ones have died or injured or still inside, they still don't know. So a lot of families coming there being turned away and also in the dark about the whereabouts of their loved ones.
Lerato, we're trying to understand what are prison conditions like for inmates at St Albans. We've had reports like Pop Crew, the union, saying overcrowding and understaffing contributing to the violence we saw, the fatal violence that played out this week. We want to get a sense of what life is like for inmates at St Albans currently. What can you tell us?
Yesterday, when the National Commissioner spoke at the press conference, he underlined three things that are problems at St Albans. He talked about understaffing, gangsterism, and also just poor facilities at the centre as well. But what did definitely come out from the National Commissioner was that it obviously was a long holiday, and most of the staff obviously had gone on holiday, which therefore gave an opportune time for the inmates to attack the prisoners, the prison officials. He did say, however, the issue of understaffing is not only singular to December, but throughout the year they've had issues with understaffing. The prison currently has over 4,300 inmates and only supposed to house 4,000. So already there you see a problem of overcrowding and then understaffing. They also, this prison, I understand, obviously has got the highest number of inmates, and also secondly, it has the highest number of gangs. We have gangs there called, which has the highest ranks of gangs in PE, which is the 26, 27, 28. So here you're dealing with prison warders, prison inmates that are the most dangerous in the cell, or in this prison. And then when you get those prison inmates in one institution and then you have overcrowding, that obviously cause a problem for the prison. But in terms of the food, we didn't hear any complaints of that. What also did come out from the press conference is that some of the inmates also have got cell phones on them, and then they therefore have access to social media, and which is also a problem that was highlighted usage in the press conference. But in terms of the living conditions, nothing really came out yet except for the gangsterism overcrowding at the prison.
Lerato, any information yet on the condition of those who were injured and hospitalized during that brawl on Monday?
What we have heard is that none of the prison officials are still in hospital, and then two of those are actually in a critical condition after they were stabbed with knives and sharp objects by the inmates. So far we have heard that two are critical, and then none officials are still in hospital.
Now, yesterday we saw top brass from Correctional Services descend on St Albans Prison. Do we know when that promised inquiry into the violence will get underway and who will actually lead that inquiry, Lerato?
When we spoke to the Deputy Minister yesterday, he just advised that the SAPS is on site doing its own independent investigation. He actually said that the inquiry has already started. It wasn't too clear about who's going to be conducting it, but he said at the moment the SAPS is doing forensic searches and obviously on site trying to get as much information as possible. But in terms of the time frames and how long it's taken, who's going to do it, that information wasn't really communicated yesterday.
All right, that was our reporter Lerato Thipa on the line to us from Port Elizabeth, bringing us up to speed on what's happening at the St Albans Prison so far. We do understand that the Correctional Centre is still under lockdown. Lerato has been telling us that family members are not happy about the communication levels on their loved ones from Correctional Services. We will be bringing you more details as that story continues to unfold.